Hi everyone, it is Sunday the 2nd of August 2020. I'm having a look at commodities, starting off with gold. Gold's daily one has just been running sideways for a couple of days here. It's so close. It's just might as well just go through tap 2000 and then kind of take a bit of a breather. The weekly candles look a little bit overextended, obviously compared to previous moves, but healthy nevertheless. Let's go through and look at this on, go through this one by one. So that weekly chart. The candles themselves look nice and bullish, but I would expect a nice small candle this week, this area, now that it's kind of should be running out of steam. So I haven't traded it because it's a little bit too overextended in my view, which I'm happy with. A nice big candle on the monthly, which is also usually the kind of thing that leads to the last kind of move before a deeper correction. Okay, so correction at this point to me would be down as low as 1550, but potentially even as high as say 1800. So somewhere in this area, which is quite a big area, but I'll have a look a little bit closer to the time. And so that's my expectation this week. Still not interested in trading it. It is still in this danger zone, and so not really. I am happy though for pullbacks to come back, and there is definitely a level of resistance where it is. So whether it does a dash up to tap 2000 and then takes a deeper correction or a breather, that's one way. Or alternatively, if it decides to take a breather during the week back down to 1900 and then take a run at 2000, either one is fine with me. Looking at silver. Heading across to silver, so silver's got a lot of catching up to do compared, looking at its history here. It's heading up towards its highs here, but certainly it's got in the future, has got a lot of room. I can just see here that on the daily it has done a nice retracement back into the moving averages. Nice little bullish candle, which implies the daily is getting ready to take another run up. The weekly is definitely overextended. So what could potentially happen this week is just kind of consolidation and a failure or lower high if that's the case. But at this point in isolation looks really nice and bullish. So perhaps another run at 2600 as well. So just some a little bit of mixed signals there. Then looking at copper, for example. So copper is looking very much exhausted on that weekly time frame. Quite keen to take a bit of a breather, come down towards 28,000 or a bit lower in towards this area. So that to me is also looking very good for, or ripe at least for, a correction. And then taking a look at the oils. So all of them are pretty much in the same place. They've all come back into this nice little area here too, which I've been talking about for a while. This is a nice area in which it could potentially, plan A being for it to resume the longer term trend to the downside and then continue down. So that's plan A. Plan B, of course, is it just decides it wants to break out of that and sort of starts to break these highs. For now, it is looking very much as though that is the way in which it is leaning. Plan A, finding some resistance in this area and starting to stall. If I go down to the weekly and have a look at that, the weekly is just kind of stalling in this area. Again, it was a really nice run. Maybe it's perhaps consolidating before taking another run up. If I look at the daily here, definitely struggling in this area. So my plan is pretty much the same as it has been for several weeks. Basically to keep an eye on it on the daily, but if it does start to head lower and trend lower, then I'll look for trading opportunities to the downside. And it's exactly the same for West Texas Intermediate and Brent as well. They're all doing the same thing as well. So trading plan is the same for all of those. Moving on to, just was going to make a comment on sugar. So sugar I had been looking at on the daily originally. There were some really nice trades taken in May, towards the end of May, and that was a really nice 3 to 1 and more. And then there was another potential setup here which didn't trigger. And then, of course, market has consolidated and has now continued on upwards. So that looks pretty good to continue on. So sugar looking nice and happy and healthy there. Then having a look at the digital commodities. So pretty good week for them on the whole. Bitcoin managed to break out and head up towards 12,000. Tap 12,000 and potentially coming back in the coming week. It's back down in the moving averages already. So a nice little bullish candle early on in this week would be a potential swing trade opportunity to the upside. But I would also be very happy if it pulled back down and tapped this 10,000 level, because it does actually probably wants to check if it should stay above it or below it. So it's probably going to come back and connect with it on the daily at some point. And we'll see then before continuing on upwards. So in the longer term, I'm sort of more bullish than bearish. In the shorter term, I'm expecting some kind of a correction, but I'll be looking for bullish signals on that. And Ether, of course, is worthwhile mentioning because I'd somehow missed this level here at 390. I'm going to put it in. 400 is a nice round closest number, but 390 has definitely got something there. And so 390 to 400 now becomes the area where it is testing certain levels for resistance. It is effectively in that area right now. And it is overextended on the daily, but it's pretty, again, longer term, I'm quite happy to see this go to 500. I wouldn't mind a pullback down in this area, but it's still got, potentially has a little bit more juice looking at it on the daily. There was a little bit of a reaction here, so this was just what I'd sketched on the chart as my original trading plan. Was any pullbacks, I would go for buying opportunities, or if it was going to test it. But it's comfortably worked its way to 350 and also comfortably now tapped 400. So looking pretty nice and happy there. And this would potentially count as a bit of a correction on the daily. So in fact, it might already be getting ready to continue on upwards. However, I would still be happier to see it come back to retest either 350 or 280 again. But having said that, this would potentially, similar to gold, this kind of fracas would potentially count as a bit of a correction, and it might get ready. So what I'm going to be looking for early stages of this week is any bullish candlesticks as potential entry opportunities to the upside. And if I don't get those and it does potentially hit lower, that's fine. I'll just simply wait for opportunities at these key levels. So the direction for me in the longer term currently is still to the upside. And that is it on the commodities. So fantastic. Have a great week.